a plush toy sold for $15,000. Not because it did anything, it just sat there, stuffed with plastic pellets. In the 90s, Beanie Babies sparked a frenzy so wild that people mortgaged their homes to buy tiny animals with names like Peanut and Princess. Fueled by early internet forums and raw FOMO, it became the first internet-driven bubble. In this video, we'll unpack how a $3 toy turned into an economic fever dream, and how it eerily predicted the chaos of NFTs, crypto, and the dot-com crash. Before Beanie Babies took over the world, the early 90s were already brewing a strange cocktail of economic optimism and low-tech innocence. America had just come out of a recession, and disposable income was trickling back into the middle class. Collectibles were making a comeback. Baseball cards, comic books, even Pogs. But the real game changer was the internet. Still in its awkward dial-up phase, it hadn't yet become the force we know today. But it was starting to connect people with niche obsessions. You could suddenly find someone across the country who shared your weird fascination with stamps, coins, or stuffed animals. That's the world into which Beanie Babies were born. A perfect storm of nostalgia, speculation, and curiosity. Ty Warner wasn't your typical toy executive. He was eccentric, secretive, and completely obsessed with perfection. After a stint working at Dockin, a plush toy company, he struck out on his own and founded Ty Inc. in 1986. He poured everything into making stuffed animals that felt different, softer, cuter, more collectible. His plush toys had an elegant simplicity to them, but Warner's genius wasn't just in the toys. It was in how he controlled them. He obsessed over fabric quality, production numbers, even which stores could carry his products. He wasn't chasing mass market saturation. He wanted scarcity, mystery, and desire. And in 1993, that strategy would take shape in a new line of oddly floppy understuffed animals, Beanie Babies. Most toy companies try to sell as many units as possible, but Ty Warner did the opposite. From the very beginning, Beanie Babies were designed to be hard to get. He would retire specific characters with no warning, driving collectors into a panic. He limited shipments to independent retailers, bypassing big chains entirely. He even created region-specific releases, a bear you could only find in Chicago, or a moose only sold in Florida. It was a masterclass in artificial scarcity. People didn't just want Beanie Babies, they wanted the rare ones, the early ones, the ones that might disappear. And as supply tightened, value skyrocketed. Scarcity wasn't a glitch in the system, it was the product. Here's the wild part. Ty Warner didn't run a single TV commercial for Beanie Babies. There were no flashy ads or jingles. Instead, the toys spread the old-fashioned way through kids on school playgrounds, whispers among moms, and chatter in local gift shops. Ty Inc. used a network of small retailers and specialty boutiques to move product. No Walmarts, no Toys R Us, just word of mouth. That created an illusion of exclusivity. If you saw a Beanie Baby, it felt special, like you'd discovered something. It was marketing through omission, and it worked like wildfire. Soon, demand far outpaced supply, and the chase began. Each Beanie Baby had more than just a name. It had a personality. Inside the heart-shaped tag was a birthday and a short poem. A bear wasn't just a bear, it was Valentino, born on Valentine's Day, who wants to be your cuddly friend. This wasn't accidental. Ty Inc. tapped into emotional storytelling, giving each toy a soul. Kids treated them like pets. Adults saw them as collectibles with character. They weren't mass-produced plushies. They were tiny companions with lore. This emotional connection created loyalty and scarcity-driven obsession. People didn't just collect Beanie Babies, they adopted them. And once you had one, you needed more. Not for the value, for the story. By 1996, the Beanie Baby craze had fully arrived. Toy stores across the U.S. were swarmed by customers before opening hours. Some managers reported getting phone calls at 6 a.m. from desperate collectors asking about shipments. Lines formed outside mom-and-pop boutiques, not for video games or sneakers, but for tiny plush animals with plastic pellets inside. Parents camped out overnight. Fights broke out over retiring models. This wasn't normal toy buying behavior. It was something else, a scarcity-driven mania. Every store delivery was a lottery ticket, and every shopper thought they might be holding the next $1,000 plush in their hands. It wasn't just playtime anymore. It was business. When eBay launched in 1995, it was a strange little corner of the internet, an auction house for junk. But by 1997, one item had completely taken over: Beanie Babies. At one point, they accounted for more than 10% of all listings on the platform. What made Beanies explode online wasn't just demand. It was liquidity. Suddenly, you didn't need to know a toy dealer. You didn't need to live near a boutique. You could flip a $5 toy to someone across the country for $500. Beanies became the first collectible item that acted like a stock, trackable, tradable, and volatile. And for many sellers, eBay wasn't just a side hustle, it was a full-time job. As the prices surged, so did the infrastructure around beanie speculation. Collectors formed online forums, mailing lists, and price-tracking newsletters. There were entire websites dedicated to valuation, forecasting, and market analysis, all for plush animals. People traded insider tips, which models were retiring, which color variants were misprints, which shipments were delayed. It was like Wall Street, but for toys. Parents became traders. Teachers clipped magazine articles. Housewives shared spreadsheets. It was the first time the internet had fueled a speculative bubble. Years before crypto, meme stocks, or NFTs, and it was running on dial-up. Not all Beanie Babies were created equal. Some were wildly more valuable than others, often because of manufacturing quirks. Take Peanut the elephant. Most were light blue, but a few early batches were made in royal blue. That tiny production error, it turned Peanut into a legend. At peak, he was selling for $5,000 on eBay. Then came Princess the Bear, made to honor Princess Diana. People thought it would be the rarest of them all. Some listed it for $15,000. Others, like Garcia the tie-dye bear, or Valentino the typo-tagged bear, spiked because of color mixes and tag errors. The smallest imperfection became a jackpot. Beanies weren't just toys anymore. They were lottery tickets. By 1998, Beanie Babies had moved from playrooms to portfolios. Entire families started running beanie resale operations out of their homes. People maxed out credit cards, refinanced houses, bought minivans just to chase toy shipments. For some, it paid off. One Illinois couple claimed they made over $100,000 in a single year selling beanies online. Others built inventory rooms with floor-to-ceiling shelving and bar-coded bins. It felt like a legitimate small business, except the asset was plush animals. Collectors weren't thinking about fun anymore. They were thinking about retirement. And the scariest part, they truly believed it was sustainable. Was Ty Warner a marketing genius or just in the right place at the right time? Maybe a bit of both. He didn't invent Beanie Mania, but he created the conditions for it. Ty kept supply intentionally low, retired certain models early, and avoided big box retailers. That made his toys feel rare before they actually were. It was brilliant, but not entirely calculated. Warner didn't predict that eBay would become a 24/7 marketplace or that grown adults would become obsessed with squishy animals. He wasn't chasing Wall Street behavior. He was chasing boutique exclusivity. But the market took off on its own. Ty's biggest move was knowing when not to interfere. He let the fire burn and it turned into a bonfire. The moment mainstream media latched on, everything changed. Stories started popping up on morning shows and in local newspapers. Woman sells Beanie Baby for $7,000. Husband and wife quit jobs to sell plush toys. Oprah mentioned it. CNN ran segments. Suddenly, beanies weren't just a hobby. They were news. And when that happened, everyone wanted in. Parents who'd never touched a toy forum started stocking shelves. Teachers, mechanics, dentists, all trying to get a piece. The coverage didn't just validate the craze, it accelerated it. It became a self-fulfilling loop. The more headlines appeared, the more beanies were worth. Scarcity had become fame, and fame turned into frenzy. By 1998, Beanie Babies weren't just a toy trend, they were a cultural phenomenon. Ty struck a deal with McDonald's for a Happy Meal promotion called Teeny Beanies, and the country lost its mind. Lines wrapped around drive-thrus, entire cases of meals were bought and tossed. People just wanted the toys. Beanies were featured in People, Time, even Forbes. TV segments showed mobs swarming stores. It wasn't just collectors anymore. It was everyone. Grandmas, hedge fund managers, teenagers. The toys weren't just popular, they were omnipresent. And because each one came with a birth certificate and retirement date, they felt more like mini celebrities than products. America wasn't just buying beanies, it was investing in them. At the height of the craze, Beanie Babies started showing up in the weirdest places. In divorce court, couples fought over collections like they were real estate. There were reports of people using beanies to pay off debts, settle bets, even include them in insurance claims. One man was charged with fraud for overvaluing his collection on a loan application. In a few wild cases, beanies were even used as collateral for bail. What started as a toy had morphed into a kind of plush currency, soft, cute, and supposedly recession-proof. For a brief window, beanies weren't just valuable, they were financial instruments, and for some, the idea of parting with them felt like throwing away money. With demand exploding, a whole cottage industry of beanie analytics emerged. Price guides popped up at newsstands. Entire books tracked the value of every model, variant, and error tag. Power sellers on eBay became mini moguls, building reputations based on accuracy and access. Collectors used spreadsheets to project future returns. It was the birth of beanie economics, a pseudo-market where emotion drove value and speculation disguised itself as insight. Ty didn't set prices, the public did, and like any bubble, it wasn't based on fundamentals. It was built on confidence. If enough people believed a plush bear was worth $3,000, then it was. Until it wasn't. Behind the scenes of the frenzy was an early internet subculture driving it all. Beanie Baby forums. These message boards were packed with speculation, rumors, and insider tips. Users would post sightings of rare beanies in local stores, share news of upcoming retirements, or leak shipping delays, which instantly made certain models skyrocket in value. The sense of community was real, but so was the pressure. If you weren't checking daily, you were falling behind. FOMO, fear of missing out, wasn't a side effect. It was the business model. In these early online spaces weren't just places to talk about beanies, they were engines of hype, and they made sure the fire never went out. At its core, Beanie Mania wasn't about toys. It was about human psychology. Collectors weren't just buying plush animals. They were chasing scarcity, status, and stories. Behavioral economics calls it loss aversion. The pain of missing out is stronger than the pleasure of getting in. When a beanie got retired, people panicked. Add social proof, your friends, neighbors, and coworkers all doing the same thing, and it became a social arms race. Owning a rare beanie wasn't just fun, it was identity. A little elephant with a tag became a badge of taste, timing, and maybe even future wealth. It wasn't rational, it was emotional. And that emotion drove the whole 1998 was the mountaintop. Beanie Babies generated over $1.4 billion in sales. Tie Inc., once a tiny operation run out of a mansion in Oak Brook, Illinois, became one of the most profitable toy companies in the world, beating out industry giants with a handful of beans and polyester. Retailers begged for more stock. Tie employees were printing money, sometimes literally. Early price guides were published by people on Tie's payroll. Stores couldn't keep up with demand, and Ty Warner, he became a billionaire. But like all peaks, it came with a question. How long can this last? And what happens when the only thing holding the value is belief? By the late 90s, the Beanie Baby craze had reached absurd levels. One couple in Chicago stored their $100,000 collection in a climate-controlled vault. Another took out a second mortgage to buy an entire shipment. There were beanie-themed weddings, beanie insurance policies, even a reported incident of beanie theft that made national headlines. Resellers treated garage sales like treasure hunts. Parents camped overnight in mall parking lots just to snag a bear named Snort. It was part comedy, part madness, a plush-fueled gold rush, and while it might sound ridiculous now, back then, it felt completely normal. Everyone knew someone who made a small fortune flipping toys. Then came the end. In 1999, Ty released a sleek black bear stitched with gold thread and a single word on its chest: the end. It was marketed like a mic drop. People panicked. Was Ty going out of business? Was this the last beanie ever? Speculators rushed in, hoping to grab the final collectible. But it wasn't the end. Not yet. It was just another release in a long line of hype cycles, and that's what made it dangerous. It blurred the line between marketing and message. The public was already jittery, prices were fluctuating, inventory was piling up. The end wasn't a farewell, it was a signal, and the market felt it. At the heart of every bubble is the same fatal flaw: too much, too fast. Ty had once been meticulous about controlling supply, but by 1999 they were flooding the market. Hundreds of new releases, color variations, country exclusives, seasonal drops. What was once rare now felt mass-produced. Collectors couldn't keep up. Sellers couldn't move product. The illusion of scarcity shattered. Beanies started piling up on store shelves, the same shelves that once had waiting lists. Prices fell, hype fizzled, and suddenly the toys that were supposed to pay for college were being sold for pennies at garage sales. The bubble hadn't popped yet, but it was leaking fast. In a move that stunned the market, Ty Inc. announced in late 1999 that it was shutting down production. No more Beanie Babies. The factory was closing. At first, it seemed like a masterstroke, a way to reset the brand and reignite demand, but it backfired. Instead of scarcity, the announcement created panic. Collectors rushed to dump their stock while prices still held. But the demand wasn't real anymore. It had been propped up by hype. Within months, resale values cratered. Toys that once sold for thousands couldn't fetch $5. The exit wasn't graceful. It was a collapse. Ty had pulled the plug, and the magic drained out with it. When the dust settled, thousands of people were left holding the bag, literally. Closets packed with beanies that were once worth a fortune now couldn't move at flea markets. Some had sunk tens of thousands of dollars into inventory. A few had taken out loans. There were stories of small businesses collapsing, marriages strained, and collectors quietly trying to offload stock for a fraction of what they paid. Some just boxed them up and shoved them in the attic, hoping the market might bounce back. It didn't. What had felt like a golden ticket turned out to be a plush dead end. For many, the beanie craze ended not with a bang, but with quiet regret and a deep lesson in speculative risk. eBay, once the beating heart of beanie commerce, saw a massive shift. At the peak, beanies made up 10% of all listings, but after the crash, sellers vanished. Price guides went out of print. The forums that once buzzed with excitement turned into ghost towns. Even hardcore collectors went silent. Beanies became a cautionary tale, the punchline to jokes about overhyped trends. You'd see them in thrift stores, dollar bins, garage sales, a far cry from their glory days on primetime news. For eBay, it was a turning point, and the platform survived, but the beanie boom revealed something big: the power and volatility of online markets built on emotion and community. Beanie Babies followed a pattern that's become all too familiar. It's the same one we saw with tulips in 1637, tech stocks in 2000, crypto and NFTs in the 2020s. It starts with a simple idea: a product, a trend, a story. Add artificial scarcity, a dash of social proof, and suddenly you've got belief. Multiply that by internet hype and easy access to a marketplace, and prices decouple from reality. Everyone rushes in, convinced they'll flip for a fortune, until they can't. The fundamentals never support the frenzy, because it was never about fundamentals. It was about FOMO. Beanies weren't the first bubble, but they were the first to go viral online. And at the center of it all was Ty Warner, a man who never gave interviews, never explained his decisions, and never chased fame. After the crash, he vanished from public view. For years, he stayed out of the spotlight, even as his creation became a textbook case in economic manias. Then, in 2013, a twist. Warner was convicted of tax evasion, hiding over $100 million in a secret Swiss bank account. He narrowly avoided prison, but the mystique deepened. Here was a man who built a billion-dollar empire on quiet marketing and scarcity, and left just as quietly. Like his toys, Ty himself became a kind of collectible, strange, valuable, and wrapped in myth. Today, Beanie Babies are still around, technically. A few collectors still trade them, and some ultra-rare pieces fetch decent prices. But for the most part, the magic is gone. You can find once holy grail beanies for less than retail on eBay. Plush toys that once caused bidding wars now sell for $5, if at all. The forums are quiet. The price guides are gone. What's left is a strange nostalgia, part embarrassment, part fascination. Every now and then, a news story pops up about someone hoping their Princess Diana bear is worth $10,000. It rarely is. The market didn't just cool off, it collapsed. And yet Beanie Babies still linger, like a ghost from a time when we truly believed a stuffed giraffe could be our retirement plan. Beanie Babies weren't just a fad, they were a training ground, a psychological rehearsal for the online speculation age. Millions of people got their first taste of internet-driven hype, scarcity marketing, and the rush of flipping something cheap for a small fortune. It taught a generation that if enough people believe in the value of something, no matter how absurd, the value becomes real, at least for a while. That idea didn't die. It evolved. You can draw a straight line from Beanie Babies to NFTs, meme stocks, Dogecoin, and every wild ride the digital marketplace has thrown at us since. The tools changed, the toy changed, but the playbook, belief, scarcity, and the crowd stayed exactly the same. A $3 plush toy once convinced millions of people it was worth more than gold. It didn't move. It didn't do anything. It just sat there, perfectly rare, perfectly branded, and perfectly useless. But in its story lies a bigger truth. We've always been willing to believe that value is real just because everyone else says it is. Beanie Babies didn't just break hearts or bank accounts. They gave us a preview of how the internet could turn hype into wealth and dreams into dust. They were the first viral asset, the first meme market. And in their strange, fuzzy rise and fall, we saw the shape of bubbles to come. Sometimes the future doesn't look like a rocket ship. Sometimes it looks like a tiny blue elephant. And maybe now is a good time to ask, were you or someone you know caught up in the Beanie Baby craze? What's the wildest collectible trend you've seen since? Drop your stories in the comments. I'd love to hear them. If this story made you think, hit like and consider subscribing for more deep dives into the stranger corners of business history. And if you want to keep going, check out my last video. It's about how QVC, yes, the TV shopping channel, quietly built a billion-dollar empire selling things most people didn't need. You won't believe how they pulled it off. Thanks for watching.